Retirement was supposed to be quiet. That was the whole point. After 4 decades of courtroom brawls, depositions that could make your ears bleed, and enough paperwork to papier-mâché a life-size elephant, I bought a modest house in a peaceful, tree-lined cul-de-sac, tucked away in a development called Willow Creek Heights. Sounds relaxing, right? That's what I thought too, before I met Karen. Let me be clear, I didn't move here to stir the pot. I moved here because the house had a wraparound porch, no visible mold, and was located precisely 45 minutes from the nearest relative. That's what peace looks like when you're a retired litigator who's had enough Thanksgiving arguments to last 3 lifetimes. Now, I hadn't told anyone in the neighborhood that I used to be a lawyer. I wasn't hiding it, per se. I just didn't feel the need to introduce myself like, "Hi, I'm Richard, former pit bull in a suit. Can I borrow your ladder?" So I minded my business. I trimmed my hedges, drank black coffee on the porch like it was a ritual, and adopted a stubborn old Labrador named Tank, whose hobbies included judging squirrels and ignoring commands. And then came her, Karen. Every HOA has one. Ours had the Karen. She had the haircut. She had the attitude. She had a clipboard surgically attached to her hand and the uncanny ability to appear right when you least wanted to see anyone, like when I was picking up after Tank in boxers and socks, or when my trash bins were out 27 minutes early. She wasn't the HOA president. No, she was more powerful than that. She was the self-appointed guardian of neighborhood order, rules, regulations, and other joy-killing technicalities. The first encounter was relatively mild. She came to my porch, clomped up like she owned the pavement, and squinted at my mailbox. "Your mailbox," she said, tapping her clipboard like it was a badge, "is 2 inches too tall. Regulation 3B states that mailboxes must be no taller than 42 inches. I stared at her, and here I thought it was just compensating for something. She did not laugh. She scribbled something on her clipboard like a teacher catching a student passing notes in church. That was the start. Over the next few weeks, the notes became notices. I received printed warnings in my mailbox, not even mailed, mind you, just passive-aggressively slipped in, about my lawn edging, my unpainted shed, it's called Weathered, Karen, and a bird bath that she claimed was inviting migratory species not conducive to neighborhood harmony. Yes, apparently, my bird bath was threatening the ecosystem of Willow Creek Heights. Now, a younger me would have sued her into next Tuesday and countersued her clipboard for emotional damages. But retired me? I was trying this whole Zen thing. You know, peace, stillness, meditation, occasionally eating kale without sarcasm. But even monks lose patience. And mine snapped one Tuesday morning when I found a formal violation letter duct taped to my front door, something about my garden gnome being politically ambiguous. I called my friend Sam, retired judge, occasional poker buddy, and someone who once sentenced a man to jail for lying about ham quality. "She's poking the wrong bear," Sam said, chewing a toothpick like it was a moral statement. "You gonna let her?" That was the moment. The exact moment. Like someone flipped a switch I hadn't touched in years. I dusted off my old skills. Quietly. Subtly. I didn't confront her. Not yet. That would have been too easy. I started attending HOA meetings, sitting silently in the back like a vulture in a cardigan. And that's when I saw the whole circus. The president? A pushover named Todd who blinked too much and thought Robert's Rules of Order was a punk band. The rest of the board? Karen's yes men, literal and metaphorical. They nodded at her like bobbleheads dipped in fear. That's when I started planning. Turns out, the HOA charter, the holy document they all clung to like gospel, had a clause buried in the fine print. Section 12.3c. Any member may petition for early elections with 33% of household signatures, provided cause can be reasonably demonstrated. Oh, Karen. Oh, sweet clipboard queen. You poked a bear with a law degree and nothing better to do. I didn't tell anyone yet. I wasn't ready to strike. First, I needed allies. Enter stage left, Diane. She moved in 2 houses down, about a month after the Great Gnome scandal. Mid-50s, warm smile, a streak of silver in her hair that made her look like she won arguments for fun. She noticed Karen before I warned her. "Oh," she said, one morning while we were both walking dogs. That's the HOA lady? Yep. She told me my wind chimes were auditorily aggressive. Yep. We laughed. And just like that, I had my first ally. More would come. Karen just didn't know it yet. The first domino fell with Diane and her auditorily aggressive wind chimes. The second was Bob. Bob lived 3 doors down and had the energy of a man who built his house with his bare hands and resented drywall for being too soft. He was the kind of guy who grilled year-round and considered sleeves optional. Karen had once reported him for having an American flag that was overly patriotic. Yes, you heard that correctly. I caught him one afternoon while he was adjusting his smoker, wearing shorts and a tank top in 40-degree weather. You got a minute? I asked. If it's about that woman and her clipboard, I've got hours. We talked. I mentioned the clause. His eyes lit up like I'd just handed him a chainsaw and a list of approved targets. Bob was in. We started calling ourselves the committee. Not publicly, of course. We weren't idiots. This was guerrilla HOA politics, not an improv troupe. But we met regularly. Me, Diane, Bob, and eventually 3 other neighbors Karen had driven to the brink of madness. Cynthia, who'd been fined for her flower pots clashing with the earth tones policy. Luis, who got a violation for parking his vintage VW too joyfully. And Dan, who just flat out hated Karen with the intensity of 1,000 suns because she made his granddaughter cry over sidewalk chalk. 6 people. That's all we needed to start. 6 angry, well-organized adults with nothing to lose and grudges measured in spreadsheets. We weren't just angry, we were motivated. I drafted the petition, used official HOA language, just stiff enough to sound bureaucratic but clear enough to stir up concern. We called for early elections due to questionable leadership practices, excessive fines, and administrative overreach. No names mentioned, we weren't tipping our hand. Diane, naturally, took lead on the charm offensive. She was good at it. Everyone liked her. She could hand someone a subpoena and make them feel like they'd won a raffle. People need to know we're not trying to burn it all down, she said. We just want Karen out. Meanwhile, I worked the legal angle. The HOA bylaws hadn't been updated since 1998, which, in HOA years, is the equivalent of writing them on a stone tablet. I started picking apart every clause, every loophole, every neglected protocol. It was like digging into a lasagna made of passive aggression and legal errors. Karen, meanwhile, was busy ruling the neighborhood with the iron fist of a woman who laminated her own parking tickets. She issued 2 more violation notices during our petition period. One for someone's Halloween decorations lingering into November. Ghosts are not a winter aesthetic. And one for a garden sculpture she claimed was inappropriate. It was a frog holding a margarita. She had no idea we were organizing. That was the beauty of it. The final straw came during the December HOA meeting. I went, as always, sitting in the back, watching Karen strut through the room like she was addressing her royal court. Todd, the wet lettuce HOA president, started reading from the minutes when Karen interrupted him. I'd like to introduce a motion, she said, to amend Regulation 8F, banning colored LED holiday lights. You could feel the room shift. That was it. She was coming for Christmas. Bob groaned audibly. Cynthia's eye twitched so hard I thought she was having a stroke. Diane squeezed my arm like a secret signal. Now. I stood up. Madam Vice Chair, I said, because I knew that title made her feel fancy. I have here a petition with 34% of homeowner signatures calling for a special election in accordance with Section 12.3c of the HOA Charter. Karen blinked. You what? I handed Todd the folder. He looked at it like it might explode. Then he looked at Karen. Then at me. Then back at Karen. We have to honor this. It's in the charter. The silence that followed was glorious. Karen's face twisted, not in shock, but in something worse. Loss of control. She opened her mouth to argue, but realized, correctly, that the room was no longer hers. People were whispering. Others were smiling. One man actually clapped. The meeting ended early. Todd promised to organize the special election within 30 days. Karen stormed out without speaking. Her clipboard, I swear to you, snapped against her thigh with every furious step. Later that night, I found a note shoved under my door. It read, "You have no idea what you've started." K. I laughed. Not because it wasn't a threat, it absolutely was. But because, for the first time in a long time, I felt alive. Karen didn't know it yet, but she'd started something too. A war she couldn't win. I expected pushback. What I didn't expect was Karen going full Nixon on a neighborhood of retirees, dog walkers, and people who thought next door was a social movement. Within days of the election announcement, Karen launched what I affectionately referred to as her Operation Save the Clipboard campaign. She printed glossy flyers, with stock images of smiling families and block quotes like, "Karen has kept our streets clean, our lawns trimmed, and our neighborhood values protected." One of them even said, "She's like a mother to Willow Creek Heights." A mother, sure. If that mother was Dolores Umbridge with a gift for passive aggression and a pathological hatred of gnomes. She also started knocking on doors, charming people, kissing metaphorical babies, using phrases like stability, tradition, and my personal favorite, "We can't let outsiders take over." Her real masterstroke was the smear campaign. Suddenly, I was being painted as a disgruntled radical who wanted to abolish all HOA rules. One flyer suggested I supported unlimited lawn height and open fire pits. I mean, I do enjoy a good fire pit, but come on. She even dredged up an old court case I worked on where I defended a contractor who turned out to be scamming elderly clients. Never mind that I won that case by exposing the real fraudster and clearing the guy's name. Karen's version had me taking kickbacks from roofers and laughing while old ladies cried in leaky houses. "You seeing this?" Diane asked, dropping one of Karen's hit pieces on my porch. "Oh yes," I said, sipping my coffee. "It's adorable. You gonna hit back?" "Nope. Let her keep digging. The deeper she goes, the more dirt she throws. The more people start wondering why she's so scared of a guy with a Labrador and a hammock." But Diane was worried. And I get it. Smear campaigns are dirty and effective, especially when the voters are your neighbors, and your credibility can be ruined by a single awkward lawn decoration. So I made a choice. I went public. We held a block barbecue, a good old-fashioned, brats on the grill, kids on bikes, tank drooling on people's shoes kind of event. No HOA funds involved. You'd better believe Karen tried to say I misused HOA funds for hot dogs. Just a gathering. A human moment. I gave a short speech. Just me and a folding chair in front of my garage. No mic. No poster board. "I'm not here to burn the place down," I told them. "I just want to stop one person from treating the HOA like her private kingdom. We all bought homes here. None of US bought obedience." People clapped. Some cheered. Tank barked. Probably at a leaf, but it added dramatic timing. Afterwards, people came up. Cynthia hugged me. Louise gave me a bottle of homemade wine labeled HOA proof. Even Todd, yes, spineless Todd, gave me a tight-lipped nod that said, "I may still wet myself in confrontations, but I respect what you're doing." But the best moment? Diane stayed behind to help clean up. We folded chairs together in the golden slant of evening sun, quiet for a while. Then she said, "You're different when you talk like that." "Like what?" "Like someone who remembers what it's like to fight for the right reasons." That landed. More than I expected. It had been years since anyone said anything like that to me. "You're a romantic," I said. "I'm a realist," she replied. "But I root for good men who aren't afraid of bad women." We didn't say much after that. But she didn't leave right away either. Later that night, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find a box. No note. Just a box. Inside, one cracked, smiling garden gnome. My gnome. The one Karen had thrown out. And beneath it, a copy of the HOA charter with 3 sections highlighted and one paperclip. A Karen-style power move. Except now, it was mine. I smiled. Game on. Election day in Willow Creek Heights looked less like a democratic process and more like a bake sale with blood pressure medication. Fold-out tables lined the community center lawn, and a very flustered Todd had converted the bingo sign-in sheet into a voter roll. Ballots were printed on pastel paper, pink for pro-Karen, blue for change. I suppose neutrality was never in the budget. Karen arrived early. Naturally. She wore a tailored beige pantsuit that practically screamed, "I think soup is spicy." Her hair had more volume than the HOA's annual budget. And the clipboard? Still present. Still menacing. Still, somehow, personalized with a gold foil monogram. She shook hands, smiled that smile. The one that makes you feel like she's assessing your property value while deciding whether your dog is compliant. Meanwhile, the committee was running our own quiet ground game. Bob manned the coffee table, mostly to keep him from yelling. Diane worked the crowd like a political strategist with wine mom energy, and I stood near the ballot box like a statue with reading glasses and a Labrador at my side. We didn't campaign. We didn't need to. By now, people had lived through Karen's rule. The cracks were showing. The constant notices, the fines, the shaming. No one was safe, and deep down, they knew it. Even the ones who nodded along to her speeches were secretly wondering if their begonias would be the next casualty. Then came the incident. With about 30 ballots cast, a sharp-eyed teenager named Tyler, who volunteered because his mom bribed him with gas money, noticed Karen doing something fishy. She wasn't alone when she went into the restroom. She had ballots in hand. Tyler told his mom. His mom told Bob. And Bob? Well, Bob told everyone in a voice that registered on the Richter scale. "She's stuffing the damn ballot box," he roared. I knew it. Pandemonium. Karen emerged from the bathroom, holding what she claimed were flyers for upcoming community events. Except they were the exact same color and paper as the ballots. Todd, pale and shaking like a leaf with trust issues, didn't know what to do. "We need an audit," he mumbled. Karen snapped. "Oh, please. This is ridiculous. I've done more for this community than anyone here. If you let these people take over, you might as well burn your deed and hand your backyard to the squirrels." That's when I stepped forward. "No one's burning anything, Karen. We're just voting. It's a concept you might want to look up. It's under D for democracy." People laughed. Laughed. Not out of disrespect, but out of relief. The spell was breaking. And I wasn't done. "I suggest we isolate the suspect ballots. Run the count publicly. I'll supervise. Karen can appoint someone too." "I appoint myself," she hissed. "Of course you do." We ran the count. Ballot by ballot. Out loud. Final tally. Richard, 67 votes. Karen, 21. Mickey Mouse, right in 3. One had a picture of a middle finger drawn in Sharpie. We did not count it, but I kept it for personal reasons. Todd stood at the front, holding the final sheet like it might burst into flames. "The position of HOA president has been won by Richard Maddox." Silence. Then applause. Then Karen. Well, she tried. She pulled every desperate move in the book, claimed the vote was invalid due to procedural impropriety, accused me of manipulating seniors. "Karen," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "this isn't a coup. It's called consequences." She stared at me, eyes tight, face twitching. Then she turned, clipboard clutched like a wounded animal, and walked out. That would have been enough. But I wasn't done. At the very first meeting, my first official act as HOA president, I introduced a motion to dissolve the HOA entirely. Diane seconded. Bob fist pumped. Todd passed out a little. The charter allowed it. With a 75% majority vote from the homeowners and proper legal documentation, the HOA could be officially dismantled. I'd already consulted with the county, already had the signatures, already filed the paperwork. We voted. It passed. And just like that, the HOA died. It didn't scream. It didn't cry. It just sort of stopped being a problem. I walked home that night to find Diane waiting on my porch. She had a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. "So," she said, "what now?" "I guess I start learning what life's like when no one's measuring my grass with a ruler." She handed me a glass. "To the end of tyranny." I raised mine. "To freedom and slightly overgrown hedges." We sat in silence for a while. Tanks snored at our feet. The stars were out, and the street was quiet in the way that meant peace, not boredom. And for the first time in years, I felt something unexpected. Rested. You ever feel a weight leave your shoulders and realize you'd been carrying it so long, you forgot what lightness felt like? That's what it was like after we dissolved the HOA. No more violation slips. No more surprise inspections. No more unsolicited opinions about the energy of your mailbox. Willow Creek Heights became livable. Not utopia, just normal. And after Karen, normal felt like a damn spa weekend. We held a little ceremony, actually. Not official, just symbolic. Bob grilled. Cynthia brought cake. Luis gave a slightly dramatic toast where he declared, "We are no longer homeowners under tyranny. We are citizens of peace." And Karen? Well, she didn't move, if that's what you're wondering. I suspect she thought if she stayed long enough, her power might rise from the ashes like some entitled phoenix. But without her HOA badge of honor, she was just another homeowner with too many throw pillows and a grudge. She tried to start a neighborhood watch. No one joined. She tried to organize voluntary guidelines. We volunteered to ignore them. The final blow, though? That was Diane's doing. One morning, a sign popped up in front of Karen's house. Professionally printed. Tastefully designed. It read, "Live, laugh, love, but maybe chill with the clipboard." I couldn't prove Diane did it. But I knew. The weeks passed, slow and sweet. My days filled with coffee, porch naps, and the occasional neighborhood walk with Tank, who, by the way, became something of a local legend. People started calling him the enforcer. And Diane? Well, we didn't rush things. We're both too seasoned for that kind of foolishness. But there were more porch nights. More shared books. She brought me soup when I had the flu. I fixed her fence without being asked. One night, she showed up with a second wine glass without saying anything. We just sat, clinked glasses, and watched the stars peek out. Companionship. Quiet. That was the new chapter. But peace doesn't mean weakness. Not anymore. I keep the old HOA charter in my drawer, framed now. Not as a trophy, as a reminder. Because neighborhoods are like people. They get complacent. They forget how fast control can slip away when you're not paying attention. I may be retired, but I've still got a little fight left in me. Enough to make sure clipboard tyrants think twice before they declare war over a lawn flamingo. As for Karen, I passed her on the street last week. She gave me the tightest, fakest smile I've ever seen. No words. Just pure, seething, unfiltered defeat wrapped in beige. I smiled back. "Morning," I said, real friendly. "Beautiful day for freedom, isn't it?" She didn't reply. The committee still meets sometimes, though now it's just called the poker group. We talk politics, lawn care, philosophy, and which neighbors we suspect are secretly hoarding Christmas lights out of season. Todd joined too. Turns out, he's not so bad when he isn't paralyzed by clipboard fear. And Diane? She's still got those wind chimes. Still playing their little tune on breezy evenings. And every time I hear them, I remember exactly why we fought. Because sometimes, the war isn't over land or power or even rules. It's over who gets to tell the story of the place you call home. And this one's mine. Thank you for being with us. Please share in the comments where you are watching from and whether you liked everything, and see you next time.